everyone, and welcome to the International Bowl Expo, the 19th edition. Storm's been here all 19 years, and last year we broke ground at coming live to you from Bowl Expo, and this year we are taking it up to the very next level. I am Mike Flanagan from Storm Products, and over the next couple of days, we're going to be sharing a lot of stories with you. We're going to be talking to a lot of our experts, a lot of our cast of characters, and over the next 2 days, I get the pleasure of getting to sit next to Hall of Fame broadcaster. He was the voice of the PBA for 23 years, Mr. Nelson Burton Jr. Looking forward to it, Bo.
Thanks, Mike. You being a fellow St. Louisan, we've been together before. We got some other St. Louisans coming on the show, Pete Weber and so forth. So it'll be fun. It'll be informative, some great products, some great knowledge there. And of course, this setup is fantastic. I was actually here at Bowl Expo, I think 1998. We had a big crowd then. I think we have over 5,000 people coming through today alone, and it's just a fantastic setup.
It really is, and all the folks at home are going to be joining, and for the second time ever, they're having the opportunity to be able to see part of Bowl Expo, and particularly the Storm booth here. And you know, last year we had a lot of fun with it, and having you here is just really incredible, and not only having the incredible Nelson Burton Jr. here, but we've also got a couple of our best staffers here with us as well, none other than, I don't know who he thinks he is, but Pete Weber and Mr. Rhino Page. Welcome, gentlemen.
Well, you know, this is a first. I've been interviewed by Bo a lot, but I've never got to sit down in a booth with him before, so this is kind of exciting for me.
You may regret it, Pete.
Never.
And Rhino, you're from this area. There's been a lot of hype and a lot of buzz about Bowl Expo. Tell us a little bit about, you know, your thoughts of what's happening here.
Oh, this Bowl Expo is great. It's always great to be a part of this event. You got all the people in this industry, between companies, pro shops, and it's always great to, you know, see the same people year after year after year, and see all the new products that we release. So it's great.
Now,
I don't think I'm worthy to wear these glasses.
Well, I was just going to get to that.
I was going to try to pry off the style.
You can't pry that off.
No.
Huh? Oh well.
Pete, are you wearing the sunglasses today because of the bright lights like TV? Are they actually necessary?
There are more bright lights here than there is on our sets anymore. So, but no, I figured that this is my style, and we got our Roto Grip glasses out. I figured, well, I might as well put them on and see if the people like these.
They look good.
Kind of not my style, but if the people like them, then I'll start wearing them.
It's your moniker,
Try
Pete.
these bad boys.
Well, Rhino Page, Pete Weber, Nelson Burton Jr. Let's go over the schedule over the next couple of days and tell the folks at home what we're going to be doing. We're going to be with you here for about an hour. We're going to be hanging out with these guys, telling you about the things that are going on, and also the big thing, the big announcement that we have here is the Roto Grip ball launches. We've got 5 new Roto Grip balls that we've been keeping secretive, and today Randy Peterson is going to join you along with our brand manager Chris Schlimmer, and also Wes Malott, the U.S. Open champion, and Stu Williams, the Stu Beefcake, our international Roto Grip staffer, who happens to be in the booth right now taking a look at us. And that's going to come up today. The Roto Grip ball launch starts at 12:30 till 1:15, and then we'll be back a little bit later popping in and out with guests. And then at 3 o'clock, I'm really looking forward to this one. Randy Peterson is going to sit down and talk to Pete Weber, Norm Duke, Wes Malott, and the Player of the Year, Jason Belmonte. And we're going to talk about the success of the bowling balls and the tools in the shed that these players get to use, which is so important.
Well, you know, Storm is such an integral part of this, and as you alluded to, has been here since the get-go of this, 19 years. But anybody in the bowling industry, some people may be watching at home on the internet, don't really understand the concept of what we're doing. This is basically anybody in the bowling business, in the industry, whether you make coffee or popcorn or bowling pins, and obviously Storm is on the leading edge of the bowling ball technology. They've been very successful on tour. They're one of the biggest companies in the United States. And so anybody who is in the business should never miss the opportunity, Mike. And Pete knows that too. We've talked about it, is coming in to see everything in here. It's such an educational process, and you'll leave with something to help your own business or just completely being entertained.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of businesses here. We have pro shops, distributors. The doors open in about 45 minutes. And I don't know, Pete, have you had a chance to walk the floor a little bit? Have you seen any booths that just really grab your eye, or is the bee's knees here?
I really haven't walked around at all, because I always look for the Storm booth first, and I saw the big banner up there, and I said, oh, well, that caught my eye right away. But, you know, like I said, I haven't really walked around yet, so I really haven't seen anything. Maybe, you know, maybe when I'm back on later, we'll ask me that.
I remember last year the food samples were a big hit with you.
The food samples? Wow.
The hot dog.
I think the Keurig coffee guy was getting mad at me because about every 10 minutes I was over there getting coffee from him. But, you know, it's just a neat place to be. It's fun to be here and see everything that goes on. And you know, people sign autographs for the people, maybe take pictures with them too. It's just a blast.
You know, Pete, a question that Randy Peterson asked me when he talked about you walking around here, he says, you know, it's about 80,000 square feet here in this building. Can Peter at his age go that far? I mean, that's a question we've all been wondering.
Have you made it, Bo?
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now it's a great setup.
I think I could handle 80,000 feet.
Okay.
Hey, while we've got these guys here in the booth, I think it's really important that we take just a minute to reminisce a little bit and go down memory lane a little bit. Obviously, with 23 years of professional television under your belt and all the great calls over the year, do you have a favorite Weber moment on television? Was it when he won the Triple Crown and beat Dave Ferraro? Any particular Weber moment that stands out to you in television?
Well, Mike, I'll break it into two Weber moments. One of them, I've known him since the embryonic age and his mother Juanita, and also with his television expertise. And I remember we were going to Hawaiian Invitational. We used to have it at the end of the year, and his dad qualified, and the top 8 bowlers in the country would qualify. We flew out of St. Louis on TWA 1, and that's a 747. Pete, at 3 years old, grounded that flight for a half hour just with his antics. He was fighting with my youngest daughter over a doll. And then his mother made me carry his diaper bag. And other than that, that's my Pete Weber before we went. What are you laughing at, Pete? It was hard for me to do that. Now, one of the great moments with Pete, I've had a lot of good ones, but I think probably not so much his bowling expertise, that as Pete was just maturing into a man and a great player, was his very first interview he did with me exclusively, he and I on the side, not so much as XB, won X amount of 40, 50 tournaments, and one of the great players of all times. But when Pete matured and sat there next to me, and here's this little bitty kid that I remember, and sit there with Bo and gave his thoughts and go forward with it, and you know, could handle the whole broadcast media and everything involved. I think I remember that moment at the time. Then, as an announcer like you are, you can, quote, trust that guy. So anytime I wanted to go to ABC director or producer, I want Weber for an interview, bang, he's there. And that was a big moment for me, and it's a really maturation moment for Peter.
And he's flexing over there. You know, my biggest thing with Pete that I noticed was when you called the television for Pete, you were able to get away with calling him Peter. And I never had anybody else ever. I've never heard anyone else call him Peter. Pete, how did Bo get away with that?
There's 2 people in this world that call me Peter, actually 3. My mother, Nelson Burton Jr., which he's called me Peter for as long as I can remember. And Norm Duke, for some reason, likes to call me Peter. He never calls me Pete, he always calls me Peter, and I let him get away with that. But not too many people get to call me Peter.
Well, you were Peter, and then you became Pete, and then when that last telecast happened, in St. Clair, Missouri, or Illinois.
Right.
You then went to ESPN and you transformed into PDW.
That's when I started getting into the wrestling a little bit more on Monday nights, and started liking D-Generation X and the RVD thing. So I started doing it, and I got an email from him saying, "Please stop using my move."
That's good stuff.
So I don't really do that a whole lot more. So I started doing the crotch chop, and you know, that just seems to be a timeless favorite to everybody. Everybody seems to love it. There are the people that hate it, which, oh well.
And hey,
get over it.
Rhino Page, obviously you and I are around the same age, and we grew up, you know, seeing Bo on television. Do you have any moments where when Pete was on TV and Bo was calling it, any favorite moment that sticks out to you?
You know, my favorite moment was that last telecast on ABC. I bought a Meteor Storm because of, you know, your Stone 9 pins. I'd never seen a ball hit that hard in my life. But just, you could feel the emotions between the players, between the announcers, and you knew that this was a big time moment. Even as a kid, I was only 14 years old at that time, but you knew something. This was an epic moment, and it was going to change bowling history. And so that's the moment that really, when I look back to all the telecasts, because I taped every one of them, that was one of my favorite ones to watch over and over again.
Yeah, I think the thing I remember most from that telecast, Bo, just to relive it, was the crackle in your voice.
Yeah, it was emotional for me. That was my 467th network telecast with ABC. However, ABC Sports had been going with the Pro Bowlers Tour since 1962. And for my partner, Chris Schenkel, it was a kind of a sad moment. I mean, Chris knew at a later age that he wasn't going to be doing more television gigs, and he really wasn't ready to retire. He still was pretty healthy, brilliant mind, and anybody who's a fan of any sport that Chris Schenkel's ever done, a Hall of Famer. He, even the night before, we stayed in St. Louis. St. Clair is just across the Mississippi River. It was a downer for him. It's like he was going to a funeral. And when we walked out there for that final telecast, as Rhino said, I could feel it. I almost had to carry him out there. And then he actually forgot his opening. And I mean, Chris Schenkel doesn't forget an opening. He's one of the greatest announcers of all times. And then sitting in the announce booth, we're not on camera all the time there like we are here, and he was really distraught. And then we ran a special. If you remember, Rhino, halfway through the show, we did a tribute to Pro Bowlers Tour, but also to Chris Schenkel. And we took he was the first guy to ever do a network college football game. I think it was 1947. He did Duke against somebody. We went all the way through there and through some of his stuff. He fought in World War II as a lieutenant in the South Pacific. Mike, we put that all together. He was completely speechless and full of tears. And I actually remember that. It still chokes me up a little bit right now. That the great man, the end coming for him of that. Of course, all of us have continued on in some other facet of television. I partially retired, but I've done stuff like this and some of the other stuff, and Pete and I, and of course Mike doing these, and some ESPN. But for Chris, that was it. And it was just a sad moment to see the man go through that.
Yeah, hey guys, those of you that are just joining us, we're broadcasting here live from the Orlando Orange County Convention Center here for StormLive. A little bit later on today, the big announcement of the Roto-Grip balls, 5 new balls in total. That's going to be coming up here just at about 12:30. And a little bit later as well, we're also going to have some of our staff members, the Sweet Smell of Success, coming up here at 3 o'clock. So you want to make sure that you stick around for those times with Randy Peterson. Hey, Pete, I got to ask you. The new Optimus, the new High Road Solid. Talk a bit about those balls a little bit and your success on the senior tour with those.
Well, I know we just came out with the High Road Solid and the Optimus, and I'll start with the Optimus because that's the one I use the most in the senior U.S. Open and the senior Masters. What a great ball! The conditions were very demanding. It seemed like if you threw the ball too far to the right, you got that little hang spot right there that most of the people get. But my ball seemed to make that turn and hook up. So I had a whole lot of room where everybody else is having this much, and I got a lot. And I really believe that's from the bowling ball. And when it made its left turn, it continued all the way through the pins. I mean, I left more solid 9s in a week than I did 10 pins with that ball. So, it's driving through the pins. I also used it in the Masters, the senior Masters, and I finished 4th in that with that ball. I have 2 different ones, a pin up with the hole on my axis, then I have a pin down with the hole down. Make it rev a little bit earlier or roll a little bit earlier for the heavier oil. But after those 2 weeks, I was like, I need a case of these at home, so I have them to bowl league with now, and I've got a lot of questions about it. And the people seem to be excited about the ball coming out.
Yeah, July 1st is the date for that one and the High Road Solid. Rhino, you recently made a TV show at the Summer Swing. Talk a little bit about how those balls played into your arsenal because they were available that particular day.
Well, the High Road Solid was an absolute home run for me. The pattern was flat, so you needed a ball that would really just control the lane. That wasn't going to give you too much angle. And to me, that's going to be my benchmark ball from here on out. It's smooth, it's predictable, and a lot of people that know my game know that that's what I like. I like that a lot, especially on the left-hand side of the lane. And the Optimus, you know, it's really surprised me quite a bit. You know, normally I'm not a big fan of the lower RG balls because, you know, I have a little more hand, and these days with my wrist, with my ball speed, it's not exactly high. But that thing just floats through the fronts and really continues strong, much like what Pete said. And, you know, with my lower rev rate now, I'm still stoning an 8-pin. That's pretty cool.
You know, I want to ask both of you a question, and I still bowl in league a lot. I use Storm equipment and whatnot. When you go into a tournament, I remember when I bowled a tour, we didn't have the luxury of so many different bowling balls. Do you go with one ball to start with and say, this is the ball that I test these lanes with, I test my shot, and then make your adjustment with that? Or do you just start with any random bowling ball? I mean, Pete, I'll ask you the same way. You walk in a bowling center, you've never bowled there before. What's your first ball you grab?
My favorite.
Okay, that's a good...
Whatever one I think is my favorite at that time, that's the one I'll bring out. But I'll bring out variations of it. I'll bring out high line of the same drilling, low line of the same drilling, and then medium of the same drilling. But I'll go through.
So you have a favorite ball that's your base ball, like Rhino said, a benchmark ball. You feel the same way, Rhino, with a benchmark ball?
I always tell people all the time, my favorite ball is the one that strikes. I don't have a favorite ball. I try not to be too biased about it. But, you know, certainly the one thing I look at is what surface am I playing on? What are the characteristics of that surface? And then from there, I'll look at the length of the pattern, if that's available. And then that'll kind of give me, you know, an area of bowling balls that I'll start with just to test out.
A question that I have, and Mike may know the answer, but when you being on the left side of the lane and you're on the right side, do you find that you use the same ball that, say, Pete would, or is the left side different in what your choice would be, even though your styles may be the same?
A lot of times to start, we actually start with similar bowling balls.
Okay.
But as you know, on the right side with all the traffic, it breaks down really quickly.
Okay.
And so I'll stick with the ball a lot longer than, per se, the right side will. So.
Good stuff.
Yeah, hey, Bo, I know you've been bowling a little bit, and I know you've been using some of our products. I heard something about a very high 800 series, and I was curious about that.
Well, I still bowl 4 or 5 days a week, and I got bowling a lot in the last year and a half. There's a young lady we're going to have on the telecast here as a high school player, and one of the things I said, if I'm going to help you with the bowling, she's very talented, we're going to practice a lot. I'm a dedicated practicer. My late father said, Bo, there's 99 guys out there on tour with more talent than you have, but none of them can beat you. And that was part of the deal, and it was really as I was a dedicated practicer, and I know that I bowled over 160,000 games in my life.
160,000.
I guarantee
Wow.
it. And what I do is I'm bowling a lot now, and in that particular series, I was bowling with the IQ Tour that I called up Hank Boomershine. Hank says, Bo, try this IQ Tour. And it was a medium outside shot. I probably have about a quarter board to mess with.
Mr. Perfect. Mr. Perfect.
And other than a solid 9, no, it was, I do bowl a lot. I had 878, I shot 300. I shot 288 with a fast 4.7. Then I moved a little deeper, and as I very seldom ever leave a weak 10 with my power, I left a weak 10 on the first one, moved the board right, struck out for 290, 878. And the reason it got notoriety, 2 reasons. One is obviously I thanked Hank for the IQ Storm ball, the tour ball, and secondly, it was the highest score shot on the Treasure Coast, I guess, of all time.
So 878 with the IQ Tour solid?
Yes.
That's basically what we needed.
That's my high series, 878.
But yours was in practice. Mine was in league.
Mine was at Crest Bowl.
Oh. Crest Bowl, for you fans at home, was the groove bowling center, other than bowling center for
Dick
all
Weber Lanes.
Dick Weber Lanes, where Pete and I both bowled. But,
well, I think that's a great transition to talk about Dick Weber Lanes for just a moment. I remember a particular telecast where this guy here set the scoring record, and I believe there was somebody else up here in the booth that was the top seed.
He smoked me, that's right. He smoked me pretty good.
And if I remember this correctly, Pete, Dick Weber Lanes is where you practiced as a kid.
Yep.
And it's the place where you grew up. And the PBA came to town, and I'm not sure your age at the time, but you were the top seed on that show, right?
Yes, I was.
And Bo Burton had to climb the step ladder. And what was that total? Take us through that day as you were getting ready to whoop a young Weber in his own house with his dad and his mom watching.
Well, it was It was an interesting day. First place, we were both hometown people, so and I bowled at that bowling center. And Pete, if you recall, was on lanes 21 and 22 at your dad's bowling center. It was old lacquer, wood lanes, tracked-in lanes, what I was born with, and that was always a good scoring bowling center. They pulled a lot of lacquer coats for people who had never bowled on that, which kept the surface nice and clean and flexible. And it was a pair of lanes that I had always hit real well. I'd actually won the Grand Prix there, and I won the one of the bowling Hall of Fame tournaments there on that same pair. And so it started off, I bowled a fellow, shot 278 the first game, and then I bowled Marshall Holman, I remember, at 279. And then by that time I was acclimated. First place, the TV pair I knew, and I says, I knew, and I was 42 years old. I says, you know, this may be your last chance. And so I actually got a great break. I bowled a fellow named Pete Couture. Pete had won many PBA titles. He left a solid 8-pin in the 9th or 10th frame to let me double to win the match. And then Peter said to Bo, he says, you know, my dad's getting a nice paycheck filling in for you at ABC, so I don't care if you win here or not. No, he doesn't. No, but there's a huge advantage in television, and all of these guys have bowled on it a lot, of coming up through the ranks, especially on wood lanes, Rhino, because they don't change that much. We're using balls that don't carry down and all that. So I was grooved to a half a board on a nice lane condition where I had room, and really the odds of no matter anybody beating a touring player at that situation was that. Final score was 1050, 262 average, which lasted about 15 years or so. So
yeah, it
that's the story. So, but thank you, Pete.
Anytime, Bo. Anytime.
And is there any salt in the wound there that you just felt, Pete, at all with that?
Not at all.
No, you feel
not
okay?
at all. Growing, you know, before I became a member, and even after I became a member, Bo and my dad and me and John, Rich, we would all get together 7, 8 o'clock in the morning at Dick Weber Lanes, and we bowled for 3-4 hours before the bowling center had even opened, just on different conditions, practicing different shots, maybe making a few bets here and there, which I remember collecting those.
I knew he'd get even.
So, yeah, it was fun. I've learned a lot from Bo over the years growing up there.
Well, Peter, I have to say, in answering your question, Mike, it was a banner day for me. It's one that kind of put a most memorable week or day on it, not only winning in St. Louis, but it was my last major title. And to bowl against the field I bowled against. I mean, I bowled against a couple Hall of Famers, and you know, Pete's gone on to win almost everything there is. So it's just one good day, and if it happened again, it may have turned out different. But unfortunately, we can't go backwards.
Well, once again, we're here at the Orange County Convention Center here in Orlando, Florida for StormLive. We hope you're enjoying today's coverage. And not only us four up here right now, but we've also got a third member of our broadcast team, Mike Fagan, who's going to be standing around doing some interviews. And Mike's going to pop on and give us a little update down from the showroom floor. Mike, take it away.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Bo. I'm out here on the Storm showroom floor, and we want to show you what's new at Storm Bowling this year in the booth. We've got a new design of the entire booth by Epic Creative. The booth looks fantastic, and the coolest feature of our booth this year is these new touch screens. And I'm going to show you how these work today, and anybody that comes by the booth can come by and play with them and see all our new products from Storm and Roto Grip. So let's check out some new balls here by Storm. All right. Let's click on the hottest new product of the summer is going to be the Optimus, obviously. So we're going to check out what's going on. It gives you a nice overview of the product. We got some tech specs. You're looking at, you know, the new Tri-Sphere core that came out, R2X cover stock, Pearl Reactive, proven cover stock in the industry, one of our great cover stocks at Storm. And if you want to check out a new video, we got the Optimus video here. We can check that out as well. I don't know if I can get this thing to flip like an iPhone, but either way, you know, we'll check out the video. We're going to have Steve Klompkin on here in a minute talking about all the new releases and all the geeky facts behind the creation and the engineering of bowling. So we'll check that out. But as we head back, I'm going to kick it back to Mike. I'm going to kick it back to Bo. Thanks, guys.
Well, how cool is that having Fagan down on the floor? I mean, he looks good down there. He looks like he's at like your normal like tech convention down there. We got flat screen TVs here, and I got to tell you, the whole marketing team, the sales staff, all the guys and girls that are here that put a lot of effort into this. Epic Creative, our advertising agency. This booth just looks top notch.
Well, it's worked well. As you said, Mike, going on there, I had never done a live streaming, and this was a little different than regular television. You don't have any cover. You're almost naked out here, and it's done very well. The setup's great. Our production crew is terrific. Jan Schmidt, I got to give her credit, who has kind of put this whole package together, was my liaison into this telecast with you. It's just sensational, and I'm really enjoying myself.
Yeah, and speaking of enjoying himself, I see Rhino down there. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about Pete and Bo, but you came onto the scene, and you chose Storm right out of the gate. You've been throwing Storm for the longest time. You have a great relationship with Mr. Chrisman, and I kind of want you to talk a little bit about 2008, your rookie season, and why Storm was your choice of bowling products, because I know that there's a lot of people out there that are probably watching saying, what ball company should I throw? Should I throw multiple companies? What kind of went into that process for you?
Well, I've been a big fan of Storm since I was a youth bowler, and one of the cool things, with Storm is I was a meteorology major, and I've always been into weather. So when I saw Storm, I mean, from being a kid, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I always wanted to be a Storm chaser, so I had this whole list actually one time of all the Storm bowling ball names that should be out there, all based on meteorology, But then somebody called me a dork and I threw it away. But
No, that's pretty cool. No, that is cool.
Yeah, like that would be cool.
But going back to my rookie season, I still kind of have to pinch myself because my dream became a reality. Since I was 4 years old, I knew this is what I wanted to do. And I was at an interesting point in my life where, I won the high roller, and then they made a rule up that I couldn't play, and then I was part of Team USA, and then they started allowing pros, and all within 1 week. And I went, well, what am I going to do? And it just so happened I met Parker Bone, who's somebody that I looked up to my whole life, and he says, so what's your story? Like, what are you doing? And we had a 45-minute talk, and by the end of it, I was calling my sponsor and saying, what do you think of putting me on tour? And it was 1 week before the tour season started. And so I was just like, all right, I'm hanging on for my dear life, kind of back against the wall. I've got one chance to prove myself. And when I made it through the first TQR and then all the way through match play, that's when I started believing, I can do this. I have a lot of learning to do, but I can do this. And it just started the momentum of week after week. And it was a grind, I can tell you that much. That extra 7 games in that TQR was very difficult, but it was also a way to kind of get accustomed to the conditions, get comfortable. So it was actually a good thing for me back then, because it allowed me 7 games of learning before I had to bowl against the big boys here and get my butt kicked. And speaking of that, my first match play appearance ever, best of 7, guess who I have to play against? Pete Weber. I'm the number 4 seed, and I draw him. I said, that's the best draw of my life right there. Give me a break, right? And what did I bowl? I bowled 8-28 my first 3 games, and I was down 2-1.
Really?
Welcome to the PBA tour.
Welcome to bowling, Pete Weber.
And sure enough, he beat me in 7, and I thought, oh, that was like one of the greatest matches.
That was.
Still to this day
We
that I've
always
ever
have
been
a
in.
good match.
Absolutely.
Well, I know that you've got a lot of respect on tour. You're actually a veteran now, 5+ years out on tour. But we still get requests at the home office for the Rhino page Doppler radar jersey that you designed.
Yeah, the Hurricane. I love it.
The Hurricane, that's what it was.
I might have to bring that one back one of these days. Go a little. I guess it would be retro now. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like yesterday.
Now, another thing that a lot of people may not know is, around the office, Rhino and the staff guys have to contact me to get certain things done and things like that. And Denise takes care of all that. A shout out to Denise. She just lost her father back at the home office. We want to send a shout out to Denise. But she's always coming over, getting player payment requests and things like that. And Rhino's real name is Ryan Page. So you should go up and call him Ryan the next time you ask for an autograph.
If you do that, I might not know you're talking to me.
When's the last time anybody called you Ryan?
Normally a bill collector or something like that.
And I know also, Rhino, that you just recently came back from Reno,
Vegas.
Vegas,
Yes.
right. And there was the junior team challenge, and you're involved with youth bowling quite a bit. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Actually, it's really neat what I get to do with our youth teams. We have a junior team Storm and a junior team Rotogrip. And the Storm team's on average maybe 3 years older than the Rotogrip team. And one thing that I've worked really hard with them is being a team and working together and learning together. And you know, it's really easy with bowling being an individual sport to look at each other as enemies. And we've got them now bought into where they're allies. And even when, you know, they're at junior gold and on a different squad, they're right behind them. Hey, anything I can get you, anything I can get you. But long story short, they've been together 3 years now, and we thank Storm very much and Rotogrip for what they've done for us. But my goal with these players is to produce 10 future pros. And I have an assistant coach that coaches the Rotogrip team when we're in competition, Adam Miller. Big shout out to him if he's watching right now. Who he ran a pro shop for a long time, so he really covers layouts and bowling balls and does such a great job for our guys on that side of things. So we really got a good network going here. And in fact, we led qualifying, or we led match play, I should say, by 200 pins. And going against college, you know, level players, and even like AJ Johnson, who has established himself even in the U.S. Open last year, for them to stand up and play that well, I'm so proud of them. So it's been a lot of fun helping them develop into great players.
Rhino, question, and I've kind of heard about this, and I know about the teen masters and the collegiate type stuff. But how do you get on a team Storm like that? Is it invitational, or are there tryouts, or how do you facilitate that?
Well, I've coached a couple teams in Junior World Team Challenge, and it was a complete disaster. I threw 5 players together that were really good, and I thought, oh, this is going to be great. And all they did was bicker about each other and complain, and it kind of reminded me of my college days when I thought I was better than everybody else and ended up individually wrecking a team.
Yeah.
And so I definitely learned how not to be a team player. And then I also learned how to be a good team player. And it's something that I've tried to really teach my players. But when it all started, I was in Vegas working for Storm at this tournament. I wasn't coaching a team. And one of the fathers came up to me and said, what are the chances that you would coach my son on a team?
So you're at junior gold and observing these players, and then you kind of...
This was actually a Junior World Team Challenge that I was working for Storm. Okay. And they asked me, they said, what are the chances you would coach my son in a team? And after doing it twice, I'm like, oh God, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't want to sign up for that. But there was something about it where I was like, you know what, I'd love to. And from the past experiences, I said, I really need to figure out 5 personalities that will really get along together well, but that also have extreme passion and work ethic and want to get better. And so that was really what started Junior Team Storm. And so coming up here, probably next year, once all the guys are in college, I'll graduate them and start over with younger ones that I've, you know, and you kind of scout that out while you're at Junior Gold and stuff like that. You can see the talent.
That's terrific. I mean, that is really good stuff.
Yeah, Rhino's a champion. He takes care of his junior teams and is giving back to the sport in so many different ways. It's unbelievable.
Well, you know, the opportunity he's giving them, and I'm going to back up to about 10 minutes ago in this telecast, is he was talking about getting on tour, getting his feet wet. Pete Weber and Bo Burton actually didn't have to do that. Pete bowled with the best bowlers in the world since he was a little boy. I did too. I bowled with his dad and Don Carter and Ray Bluthall when I was a kid, so I'm just practicing with them. When I went on tour, Rhino, they're just guys I bowled with. And yet guys coming on tour who hadn't been exposed to Pete Weber, Dick Weber, Don Carter, Earl Anthony, whomever, I mean, they're nervous, and it's hard to really get your feet set on tour and believe in yourself. Or Pete, don't you agree that when you first bowled me, or I bowled you, or you bowled Don Carter, you bowled him already 20 times. What's the big deal?
Well, it was
no big deal.
Like no big deal.
Yeah,
but then again, you know, bowling like Mark Roth, who was my idol growing up, you know, that was kind of, and Marshall Holman, because you didn't want to piss him off. But you know, those two guys were. But we did have nervous.
We did have an edge that young people don't get, like just where we grew up.
Exactly.
Hey, obviously all 3 of you guys have been involved with tour life, and we've actually got a question here It is interactive here today, so if you do want to send us a question in the chat or to our Twitter account or our Facebook account, make sure that you do like us on Facebook and that you follow us on Twitter and you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Storm Bowling Balls, also the Roto Grip channels. But right here we have a question for Pete. What's your most memorable moment in your career? Most memorable moment for you?
God, there's so many. There really is so many. You know, winning one U.S. Open's great, but winning 5, that's probably the most I remember. Probably my most favorite moment is winning the 5th U.S. Open. But also, you can't count out winning the Tournament of Champions that the Webbers have never won. You can't rule out the Triple Crown when I completed the Triple Crown, because those are all big memories in my bowling career. So I really don't have one. If you want to talk embarrassing, yeah, dropping the trophy. You know, that kind of like.
I was the one that unscrewed it though for you. Pete dropped
There were no
it.
screws and bolts in it though, Bo. Double stick tape.
You know, I'll act in a way, after knowing Pete all as great a bowler as he is, and I have to put him in among the top 3 players of all times, and nobody can talk back at me right now, but I'm pretty much right. Pete, the one that I remember the most, and really why it means so much to me, was your 5th U.S. Open, because one of the great goals was to win 1 U.S. Open for anybody. I snuck through with one. But Don Carter and your dad were the only 2 guys that even came close to having multiple U.S. Opens at that level, and to break the record of those 2 guys, and I watched you do it, was to me, as a fan of you, really, as a friend, but as a bowling fan, was that the most memorable moment that I had, especially of all U.S. Opens.
Well, thank you, Bill.
It's well
appreciate
deserved.
that.
Nobody will beat that record, trust me.
I'm hoping. I'm hoping.
Unless you do.
The only way I'm going to beat it is make it number 6.
That boy.
And I have to tell you, that was very memorable for me as well. As you know, you beat me out for the show. And when he walked into match play that night, he had what I call the Pete Weber aura going. And you just knew. I mean, he comes out of the gate 250, and he had it. He was working the crowd and the whole 9 yards, and I went, man, it's going to be tough to beat this guy. And when he did make the show, I told my buddies, I said, there's going to be something special that happens today. And that shot that you threw to seal the deal was, to this day, one of the best shots I've ever seen.
Agreed.
Well, thank you.
I mean,
Thank you very much.
unbelievable.
It means a lot.
On that tough pattern, to pure it that good, and you know, whew, I can't even tell you. That's good stuff. That's
And
good stuff.
I'm going to tell you a recent one that I think gets overlooked a lot. I've been kind of known to be one of Pete Weber's biggest fans. I help maintain his fan page and things, the Pete Weber Bowling fan page. And I particularly remember a telecast, it was a little over a year ago, Tournament of Champions, and you were the top seed. And you had the gold ball. You had the Storm gold ball, still in production, still a hot seller for us. And I didn't think you had a chance against Belmo in that match because of what was happening to the lanes, and you've never been a big lofter. You know, you've never been able to loft the gutter well, and it was just moving in. And I don't know how you got that gold ball to work so well that day, but you beat Belmo, who's here.
Mike, I didn't understand why Sean and Belmo decided to loft the left gutter on both lanes, because all they did was leave the oil there for me. Because, I mean, they're throwing it over the left gutter cap. They're not using any oil there. And they went from playing like 5th arrow to playing loft the left gutter. So they still had 2 more arrows they could have moved before lofting the left gutter. And when I got out there, I threw one shot and I said, boy, there's plenty of oil on the lane right now. And I figured I had a better chance than they did because they didn't know which way their ball was going to hit or go when it hit the lane.
It's just so funny, different perspectives on what we were viewing at home based off of what you were seeing on the lanes, and there's so many different ways to look at things when it comes to bowling. And this game has gotten so much more complicated. That's why we need a top-to-bottom arsenal of bowling balls. We need a premier line, we need a master line, we need a thunder line, a hot line.
Oh, absolutely.
And really that's why we've been able to be so successful here at Storm.
Well, I think one of the things that people at home don't really get to experience, you have some, but these 2 guys have, is bowling on national television for a major championship. is a whole different ball game. You can practice all your life, 15, 20 games a day and all that, but until you stand up there, and the only way I can equate to it, I says, you bowl, you bowl, you bowl, and then you get up there on the approach and somebody puts a gun to your head and see how your hand's shaking. And bowling on TV is something you have to almost learn, don't you, Rhino? It's to understand the lights, the pressure, and what you're doing. Not so much the lanes are doing, what you're doing. And having the right equipment is very important, but having the right physical equipment is so important.
Oh, it's absolutely important. And, you know, Pete will probably tell you of all the times he's made TV, certainly for myself, you drill balls for the show. And it's because the lights really mess with the oil and everything else, and let alone your nerves.
Well, that's the point I'm making.
Yes.
You know, the equipment is great, but you have to learn to bowl for titles, Mike, on the tour. You just don't stumble into that experience. I was really a loser when I first came on a tour. I lost to his dad 3 times my rookie year. I lost the U.S. Open and whatnot. And finally, I learned to what my body did under pressure of television, and went on to win the next 13 out of 14 opportunities after I made a mental change, which became physical. We didn't have a lot of bowling balls then, so that's a point well made for people at home who are bowling, you know, any kind of pressure. You learn from those situations, right, Pete?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I mean, you can put yourself in that situation in practice, but until you actually get in that situation, it's 2 different things. Because practicing, you're like, oh, I'm winning this no matter what. And then when you get on TV, it's like, how am I going to win this? You know, because you know you're thinking about the lights, you're thinking about the cameras, you're thinking about the million people watching you, and you got so many things going through your mind that
your body has never felt that way before, and that's the hard thing to learn to bowl that way.
And I can tell you, coming off of wrist surgery just a year ago, when I made the show on Bear, everything's fine, and then it's my turn to bowl, and it was like my first show all over.
Oh, yeah.
My knees are knocking, my hands are shaking, and I'm like, thank God I got 15 pounds on my hands, so they're not that shaky. But if I was golfing, I'd have a hard time with a putter that day, let me tell you.
Well, that's experience.
And yeah,
that's what makes a winner on tour is experience.
Absolutely, 100%.
Exactly.
Hey, speaking of another winner, let's throw it back down to Mike Fagan, who's standing by with a guest or something down the floor. Hey, Mike, take it away.
We're good? All right, thanks, Mike. I flagged down my first interview for the day. We're here with Jouni Helminen. Jouni is a former PBA Tour player. He's also the owner-operator of Sport Bowling Finland and Latte Bowl in Latte, Finland. I was lucky enough to visit his center, and it's a fantastic facility. How are you? How are you, Jouni?
I'm doing good, thank you.
So, Jouni, what have you seen around Bowl Expo today that really catches your eye?
Well, all the colors and everything. This place looks magnificent, and it's really nice to get in here and talk with people and see the new products. And this is really the highlight of the year to get to the Bowl Expo.
So, what new products are you excited about?
Well, I'm excited about the new Rotogrip line because the Rotogrip has always been a really big part in our line, and I use it for so much. So I'm really excited to see the new balls.
All right, we won't spoil the fun. That announcement comes out this afternoon, so we won't spoil that fun. But so what's new with Sport Bowling Finland?
Not much. We've been steady for a lot of years now, and steady is good in this business. So we've been really fortunate, and we really love what we're doing. We're passionate about it, and it's nice that we were able to, some point of time in our careers when the bowling was getting a little bit on the older side, and we were able to turn into the business, and we've been really happy about it.
Well, thank you so much, Jouni. One of the great bowling families from one of the great bowling countries in the world, from Finland. I want to thank you for stopping by, and head it back to you guys.
All right, Mike Fagan. It's so cool having Fagan down there. I mean, I'm a fan of professional bowling, and to throw it down to Mike Fagan down the floor, he's one of the most animated, outgoing guys. He's got just a great, tremendous personality, and you know, I could see him falling in the footsteps of yourself or Randy. I could see him doing that.
Well, he's got the demeanor. I've always been a Michael Fagan fan. I first became a Michael Fagan fan when he won one of the tournaments that I covet the most, is the Masters, and how cool he was when he won the Masters tournament. And I really love his style. Anybody who's watched Michael Fagan, he's got the long, high backswing like Pete, but he waits for the ball so well, and he's a wrist bowler. Most of the bowlers that last a long time, like Pete, Rhino, are not finger bowlers, they're wrist bowlers. Their wrist is the actual imparting of where their hand went. And I've talked to Michael a couple of times last night at the party. He's just a terrific guy. And you know, one thing that hit me, and Pete, you remember that back then. We didn't bowl internationally. Well, we bowled We bowled in Japan one tournament, or we bowled in South America. I bowled in Paris once, but that's a huge, huge thing, Rhino, with today internationally, especially for the pros. The pros are going everywhere.
Rhino, I don't know if you've bowled overseas or not, but I haven't really bowled a whole lot of them, but the ones I've bowled, I've done fairly well in. And, you know, the European bowlers are excellent bowlers. They are not to be taken for granted. They are just as good as we are. In fact, I think there's a lot of them that could play on the PBA tour with us.
How about lane conditions over there, Peter? You see any big difference on what we bowl here? Or?
Well, no, not really. The tournaments that I did bowl over there, the conditions were not really super easy, but they weren't really super hard either. You know, you just had to figure out which part of the lane to play, and you know, and you could drill a bowling ball also. So, but the players over there are, and lane conditions are just like they are here. They're no different. Even Asia is the same way. I mean, they are no different over there than we are here.
Well, it's surely expanded, and I'm sure Rhino will get plenty of foreign experience. To me, just as a young athlete like both of you guys, Pete, you're getting up there a little bit, but the availability to travel the world, where, you know, basically if I bowled in Seattle, I bowled in Seattle 20 straight years and something, but to be able to go to Korea or Asia or anywhere on that, you take a guy like Tim Mack. Tim Mack has traveled the whole world like that. He was one of the pace setters for all of us that are following behind it, especially you guys internationally.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, being on Team USA 7 years as well, that really got me overseas quite a bit, between Korea, Brazil, Thailand, you know, places like that. And so that's where I really got my first international experiences. And with the World Bowling Tour, I think it's great that that's starting to pick up some steam. And it's something that I'm going to be a part of, hopefully, this next coming year, once I get completely healthy again. But I did bowl the World Bowling Tour in Thailand, and like Pete said, the conditions are pretty much the same. The people are great, and you can see how worldwide these guys are getting a lot better. A lot better.
Is there an age limit on Team USA? Just asking.
I'm too old, Bo.
You're too old.
They
So
have
that leaves
senior.
me out.
They have the senior Team USA. So
I might give those guys a try.
Hey guys, we got a question coming in here from Twitter. Matt at Showtime 8D7. He says, how do you pick up a teammate if they've had a couple of bad games when you're bowling league? How do you pick up a teammate? We'll start with you, Pete. How would you pick them up? You bowl league.
Well, you keep encouraging him. You don't get down on him and say, well, you're screwing everything up for us. You try and motivate him. You try to, all right, this ball's not working. Maybe we should try a different bowling ball, but always keep positive to your teammates. Don't ever get down on them. That just makes them bowl worse. If you keep them motivated and keep their hopes up and, you know, thinking that they're behind you while you're sitting there watching and giving suggestions, then that should really help your teammate. You should never make say bad things about them.
And Rhino, you bowled collegiately. You have a national championship. You could speak to this and give us some pretty good tips, I bet.
Yeah. You know, much like Pete said, it's all about staying positive. And, you know, even coaching a team now, I always tell everybody, I don't want to see one person's head drop ever, no matter how bad you're bowling, because you know you have 4 guys right behind you that are going to pick you up. And it's funny how, you know, when one person gets a little down, it can a lot of times be a domino effect. So I would encourage a person, hey, if you're struggling in a league, just, you know, it's all right, come on, pick me up, guys. You know, and as well as the teammates, be positive to them.
And
they
Bo,
need that.
Bo, could you pop out of a suitcase real quick and give us your answer?
That's the old Choice Hotel commercial. Yeah, I can. I actually have a very good team record. I won 3 national team championships. I won the national doubles twice, the ABC doubles twice, and I bowl in a doubles league right now. It's a sports doubles league, and I bowl with a kind of an ex-pro, but he's one of the great bowling writers in the country now. He's down in our area named Carl Ramones. who writes for the Palm Beach Post. And Carl and I bowl in a sport league on Monday night, and one of the things that I tell him, unless he's way off, is that, Carl, I've never seen you throwing it any better. You know, and that's really a positive. And I've watched him bowl, and I put him anchored. I says, Carl, you're throwing it much better than I am. If we need a strike under pressure, you can get it. He has flourished in that environment, and it makes him bowl better. Now, if a guy's got a real flaw, Rhino, as you know, I mean, go like, hey, you know, straighten it out. But most good bowlers don't do that. It's between the ears, Mike. You know that you're a good bowler. It's between the ears. Give them a positive attitude. And if something's going to change it after you're finished bowling that night. And that's a good lesson. And it's worked for my teams back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And another point that I'll make with him, we put together teams for the old ABC, USBC tournament. One year I put together the All-American first team. All 5 guys All-American. We finished second to last. The next year, I put together a team of guys who bowled together as a team. Barry Asher, Roy Buckley, to name a few. And we bowled as a team. We won the national championship. And so there's a lot to be said about organizing your team, both mentally and physically. And you guys got your finger right on top of it.
So, Bo, are you going on the record right now and speaking to USBC saying pros should be allowed to bowl the USBC Open Championships because they would not gel together as a team?
I don't know the rule. Very solemn. I sat in an announce booth next to Chris Schenkel. You're my Chris Schenkel right now, and I knew every rule in the book. And if I didn't know it, I made it up, folks. So, but anyway, I don't know what the USBC says about it.
They cannot. But I just loved your point about how you put together this great.
Well, we had a
team,
separate division.
And you finished second to last.
We had a separate division when the Pro Tour started going along really well. Your dad, me, Don Carter, and all that. They were losing people in the regular division teams. They could not compete with touring players, especially back in the old one-ball era day. You really had to be on top of your game. So they segregated out the PBA guys and made it what they call a classic division. Okay, so we bowled and we could make up a team. All right, any team like that. And that lasted probably Bob Hart, who's on your staff. He's bowled as much as anybody in the thing, could tell you how many years the classic division went on. I'm going to say about 20, 25 years. And now I don't know if guys participate or not. I mean, I haven't done it. So, you know, it's their business. They can make the ruling, but I'm all for putting teams together. And if you have to segregate the pros out, go ahead and do it, because people want to see the pros bowl. They want to see their record in team doubles and singles. And so,
I like it.
Okay.
So do I.
I like that.
Go to bat for us.
Well, it's not innovative. It's just going back to what really worked.
There you have it. Chad Murphy, where you at? He's around here somewhere. Hey, the control room. We've got a lot of guys working behind the scenes here today making this happen, and they've got a question for you, Rhino. They want to know that if you had to give, since you're Rhino, if you had to give Pete a animal nickname, what would it be?
Be nice.
What would be the fiercest animal? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Maybe a bull?
Well,
how about a badger?
He's got a dragon. He's got a dragon.
I got the dragons.
There's one thing I tell people all the time about Pete. I've been lucky enough to get to be very good friends with him. And when he puts his bowling shoes on, it is game on. He's one of the most intense players I've ever seen in my life. He takes the shoes off. He's one of the greatest guys you'll ever meet, and a great, great friend. And they always, you know, you get the ego of, oh, bad boy and everything else. And off the lanes, very much not that. But on the lanes, I'm going to go with something like, you know, tiger, a lion, just fierce, intense animal. No doubt.
Good point.
Another question coming in here from Twitter. Scott Cavelli for the Lion and the Rhino. Says at Bowl Rotogrip StormLive, what's something about being a professional bowler that fans wouldn't know? Are there any hidden challenges?
Traveling's probably a hidden challenge, to travel everywhere, you know, trying to keep your mental attitude towards the game focused. You know, like when I'm bowling, even when I'm bowling, I mean, when I'm not bowling on my frame, I'm standing back there talking to somebody, hey, where are we going for dinner tonight? Anything to keep my mind off of bowling, because I don't need to think about it. When I get on the approach, that's when I need to think about bowling. Not when I'm back here doing nothing, when I get on the approach. And I think that's something that people miss out on, that they don't realize that what do they really do when they're not bowling.
Well, I think, Rhino, you'll agree that people at home, they bowl, and like I am a recreational player now. I bowl a few tournaments that pay a shekel or two, but basically when I was on tour, it's a business. And for you guys who are young and making your living, bowling is a business. So when you're on tour, you got to do anything in the business. You got to ensure your body's right, ensure your equipment's right, ensure your brain's right, ensure your finances are right. And all of those things take time. And I'm sure that you could answer the question that way. The people look at home and they're just entertaining. But Rhino Page and Pete Weber and Wes Malott and all those guys out there, that is their business. That is how they make money, pay for their family and all that. And that's a little bit different attitude than going out and like I bowl in league.
Absolutely. And it can be very stressful at times as well. And, you know, the way I would answer that question is we're normal. We're just normal people that bowl for a living. So when we're in the bowling center, it's game on, it's business time. But once we're done, you know, we're as normal as it gets. It's just what we do, you know?
I agree.
You're saying Pete's as normal as he gets? No, let's just
Well, you know, I don't know if I go that far, man.
Yeah, we know how normal I am.
Hey guys, it looks like the showroom floor is open. We've got a large crowd here now, here at StormLive, and we've just got a few minutes left. So coming up here at 12:30, you don't want to miss it, Eastern Time. We're going to launch the new Roto Grip balls with Randy Peterson. Some people have really been looking forward to the new balls, 5 new balls in total. I believe they're actually going to be the last launched products out of any of the ball companies. I mean, we don't have their schedules or anything, but they're going to be the ones that are going to be fresh and new in the pro shops. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what these new balls do with Roto Grip. You know, Roto Grip, I've seen Roto Grip more on television recently. You guys are obviously Storm staffers. You're allowed to throw both brands. Are you guys looking forward to the new product launches from Roto Grip?
I look forward to all the new bowling balls that come out, whether it be Storm or Roto Grip, because I like both companies. I think they're both the #1 balls in the world to be used. So I always enjoy the new stuff.
Pete, you've been with Storm for a long time.
17 years now.
You know, I remember Mike on an airplane with Peter 17 years ago, sitting next to him wherever we're flying from, TWA, probably out of St. Louis. I remember that saying. He said, Bo, I just signed with the best bowling ball company in the world, and your statement, and it's changed my life in a number of ways, both with my equipment and with my finances. I'll still remember that to this day. 17 years. It's a testimony to you and the company.
Well, I was really 95. I was really thinking about quitting.
Yes, I remember.
And Brian Bird came along and said, "Let me draw you some bowling balls."
But then signed you a deal for some of this, which made the big.
He did, and I finally threw them. And for my first 6 games I ever bowled with a Storm bowling ball, I was 379 over.
Which is about 260 average.
Yeah, close.
263.
Close, and then came back in the beginning of '97 after I just signed my contract, and I won the second tournament with the Storm Lightning Bolt. So, you know, it's been a love for me since I signed. Since I put my name on that contract, Storm has just been #1 with me and #1 in the world. So
great story.
My opinion, you were a Hall of Famer before Storm, and then when you signed that contract with Storm in the reactive resin era, you became a Hall of Famer a second time. You're almost a 2-time Hall of Famer. You had a Hall of Fame career with urethane. You were struggling with the different products that were out there. You came to Storm. The materials we have, it's obvious they're the very, very best. And you became a Hall of Famer again, pre-resin, post-resin.
Well, I owe it all to Storm, because they do make the best bowling balls in the world today for us to bowl with, and there's no second guessing it.
And Rhino, you with the Roto Grip ball launch coming up here in just a couple of minutes now. What are you thinking?
I can't wait, personally. And much like Pete, I look forward to all our new releases. It seems like there hasn't been a bad one in forever. I mean, just every one of them is a great tool. And, you know, I tell people all the time, bowling balls are like golf clubs. And top to bottom, there's no doubt between Storm and Roto Grip that we have the best bowling balls in the world. And just to be a part of this company, this is now my 6th year, not 17. But it's just been a true pleasure, true pleasure.
Well, I thank both of you guys for being here. We've got about 30 seconds left, Bo Burton. It's been fun sitting down here, having a little bit of time. We are going to be here not only all day today, but also tomorrow. I want to go over the rundown again. Randy Peterson coming up in about 20 minutes. I'll be going over the roto grip balls with Wes, Stu, and Chris Schlimmer. We'll come back for about a half an hour at 2:15, and then from 3 to 3:45, you're going to want to definitely watch the pros up here with Randy Peterson talking about our products, and then we'll be back until 5 today, and we'll start up again at 10 tomorrow. So it's been awesome so far, bud.
Good stuff, Mike. You got it under control. Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Rhino.
Thank you, Bo. Thanks, Mike.
Absolutely. So we'll be back shortly, just after a few-minute break. Randy Peterson and your friends over at Roto Grip are coming up here shortly. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you a little bit later.